Hey, thanks so much for tuning in. I'm your host, Jamie Young, and we've got J Dog with us from the big DR. Game 7 on Keep Your Head Up Hockey coming up. Man, Jay, to be honest, I just didn't think that we were going to get there. With Game 5, I thought it was over and done, and it's going to happen again. But now, Poppy gets a goal. Leafs push to Game 7. Now we're back at home. Toronto's going to be electric tonight. Jay, man, are you excited or what?
I actually am. Like I said in the last show, I thought that one of two things were going to happen: either they're going to give up, or they're going to do a beatdown. Now it was neither really. I'm actually quite surprised that they ended up with a goose egg on the end. Be honest, I thought Wall played pretty well. There's no doubt. I mean, he screwed up a couple of times where it could have cost them. Uh, as far as the offense is concerned, again, giving up the puck way too many times. The defense actually, they're starting to look like a little bit tired. They were giving up the puck a little bit too much in their own zone. However, they collapsed so well down in front of Wall, and Wall played fantastic. There was barely any rebounds. He was like, if you looked at he closed himself right up on every puck. He let him just his body absorb it. He didn't fight anything. He just let his body absorb it. It looks ugly, but it was very effective. And with a team like that likes to come in and bump and smash the goalies, that's probably the best way to play the puck. So I think they did pretty well. And of course, you got to give Wall a lot of credit. He hadn't played in whatever, so he's the type of guy that needs to play a few games before he starts playing well. And he's not a high confidence guy. However, starting to see it. Yeah, they showed the win afterwards when he got the puck. That they got the little board that they're putting the pucks in for all the wins, and he seemed very confident. He looks like a different guy than he was last year for sure, and he played well last year. It wasn't his fault they lost. So I think that he's definitely good enough to make it to the next round.
And Stolar's day to day still. Not really sure, if he's going to start tonight. I did take a look at the lines tonight, and he is still listed as day to day. So I think you really got to go with Wall. Wall's goals against average 2.14, a 926 save percentage. Not too shabby for a guy that had to jump in last minute. You're my wonder Wall, Joseph Wall, coming back for the Leafs and playing well and getting a shutout in Game 6. So quite exciting, J Dog. We got Wall in net tonight. Everybody's firing, but you know who's going to be missing tonight? And I'm a little bit upset about it. Mr. Nyes, our captain of the playoffs so far, got hurt, and there was a hit. Seems like it was the hip, Jay, is what they're saying.
That's what I
But
thought.
he pushed through. I'll give him the credit, Jay, is he pushed through, played through it, and I think at one point he said to Berube, "I'm going to keep going until I can't go anymore." Is what
Yeah.
he said on the bench. What are you thinking about Matthew Nyes not being in the lineup tonight?
Well, this is where I'll be honest with you, it's his own fault. And I hate to say it because if he was a Florida Panther, he would have hit whoever hit him. I can't remember that ran into him. It was ran into him backwards, basically. And he basically let off so he didn't hammer him from behind. Fuck that. Anytime you're doing that, you're putting yourself in jeopardy. I would rather take a penalty than put yourself in jeopardy of being hurt. And this happens so often to players when they let up and they end up getting hurt because they don't want to hurt the other player. Screw that. Why take the friggin' penalty? I mean, it's because being out for who knows how many games, and it happens frequently. And I'll be honest with you, I told you like the last game, this gang mentality that they have, going around the
Yeah.
nets, they smash our guys afterwards. They get a couple punches in the face. The little face wash, the cross checks are crazy, the little elbows and stuff
Oh
like that. And we're
gosh.
not doing it back. And this is where Paul Maurice, again, I'll bring it up one more time, smashed them until he got no more in Game 7. And this is all about that, man. These little things add up after a while, little bruises, little bumps, things get sore. You don't react the same way to turning. You don't react the same way that like coming off the wall after you get hit. You don't react the same way when you get smashed to the ground and get back up again. You start getting up a little slower, which keeps you out of the play a little bit longer. All these things add up, and you can't do that. like, I don't care. These guys are mean. They're fucking nasty, and they need to be put in their place. And nobody's doing it. We've had a couple of games. The first 2 games they did it. Nothing since. So that tonight's going to have to be one of those games. And I'll be honest with you. Without this guy, Matthews needs to be firing on all fucking cylinders, and they need to put him under a saddle. If I was Berube tonight, I would tell him, listen, if you don't play the way that you can play tonight, it's all over. I would put that fucking. We'll be asking for a trade. We will get you the fuck out of here. We'll get you wherever the fuck you want. Not a problem. You got the no trade. But between him and Marner, I think if they don't win tonight anyway, he's walking.
He's a walk anyway, as far as I'm concerned.
I don't think so. If they win, I think he stays, and he said that the other day too. So I just think that there's got to be physicality, and there's got to be mean. There's got to be nasty. And what did I say about who was going to be a major influence in this series? And they just picked him up. He's been dynamite. Pacioretty has been physical. He's scoring goals. He's passing. He's making like great passes for assists. And the guy is a force on the ice. And he's got a burr under his saddle. When he gets in there, you try and push him and shove him. You know, he's laughing. Yeah. He's laughing when these guys are pushing him. He wants to fight. I think he'd love to fight. And I think it'd be a big problem for some of these guys because he's like 240, 245. These guys are like 215. And he's old man strong. He's not like young guy strong, like bench press strong. He's old man strong to go with the bench press strong. It's different. It's different strength, man.
Yeah. I was want to go back to Knies real quick, but a big miss for the Leafs tonight as they go into Game 7 tonight here at home. Knies, 5 goals, 2 assists, and 7 points. So definitely going to be missed. But I agree with you, Jay. The Leafs got to be tougher than they've been this whole playoff series. And to be honest, since they've actually had this core 4 together, the last 10 years, like they've got to be tough as nails out there. They've got to be first on the puck. And as you like to say it, come in waves, over and over and over again. Just be pounding this team into oblivion. But like you said, right, Florida's plan, pound them until they can't do nothing left in Game 7. Do the Leafs have enough? Do they have the legs left for Game 7? And my quick answer is absolutely, man. We've went through a lot of turmoil and a lot of problems the last few years in the playoffs, and they've thought about that. And now they've got another opportunity in Game 7 to meet it, to get to the third round in years and years. I think that 90 was it 2000 or 93? 93 the last time. I can't remember that stat, but I'm telling you, man, huge opportunity tonight for the Leafs in Game 7.
Oh, I absolutely. This will change history for them if they do it, and then then it's a couple of. If these guys make it through, I think if they make it through, these guys they win the cup. That's my honest opinion. Knies will be healthy. Stolarz will be healthy. Like Knies, I don't think will be gone for more than a couple of days. If they win tonight, they got a couple of days off. It gives him so it gives him like almost a week to heal. I guarantee you they're working on him, constantly, to get him back into where he should be.
He's been skating too.
Yeah, and you got to keep him loose. That's an injury with a hip. You can't let it lock up on you. So it's one of the worst things. I've had hip pointers in the past. Dude, I'm not joking. I got hit so hard in non-contact hockey. We were beating these guys up pretty bad, and I think I had about 4 or 5 goals in an industrial league game, and some guy stuck his hip out and fucking hip checked me. I am not joking. I couldn't get off the ice. The guys had to pick me up. They put me on the bench, and then I had to crawl across the ice to get off the ice. Everybody left the ice. They forgot about me. And then I had to crawl down the stairs, and I was the last guy to get out of the change room. And one of the guys, the rink rats, had to friggin' help me to get to my vehicle. I had to slide my ass down the bench or down the stands to get out of the arena. So it was one of the worst injuries I've ever had as far as pain is concerned. I broke my leg before, and I didn't feel that bad.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, do or die, Game 7 tonight, once again for the Leafs. Like, Jay, I feel like this is like a reoccurring nightmare. And I hope that it changes to a positive dream, because we've been here so many times. We've lost to too many teams in Game 7, and that's kind of been our our main problem for this team is rising to the call of action in these types of situations in games. I gotta say, man, the quarter four needs to show up. If they haven't shown up before, this is when it's all on the line. They've got to do it. But we know what? We've got the hometown boys. We've got Johnny T, and we've got Marner, and we've got Matthews. Basically, born into Toronto from the Arizona area now, living here since being drafted years ago. It's a major opportunity. The four fours got to show up. What do you want to see differently from them from game 6 to game 7 tonight, Jay?
I want the defensive core to be more stable, a lot better with the puck, a lot more sure what they're doing. They need to get to the puck faster because what's happening is they're relying on Tanev way too much and he's getting pounded. He's averaging 8 hits per game. That's ridiculous. Like 8 hits on him. So yes. You got it there. And they know, he's the best defensive player they have for sure, but they're going to keep pounding him. And the problem is that like, if you want to move on, you got to have him healthy. So the guys, they got to make sure that they're making quicker passes so the puck gets to each other faster. So the other team doesn't have as much time, have as much time to get to you. And you need to get rid of the puck faster. You got to get the puck out too. That was the biggest thing. McCabe was horrible the last game in getting the puck out of his own zone. And, he's usually pretty stable. So I'm not going to harp on him too much, but Riley was ridiculous. Again, there is no way that we got to keep, like, honestly, I don't care what happens this year. I hate to say it, but he's got to be gone. No. He's got to be gone. There needs to be more physicality. He has none. He needs to be aggressive getting to the puck, hit the guy, and this is the biggest thing. I go back to when Matt Sundin was on the team. It's very similar where guys skate by players instead of hitting them. Okay, the guy got rid of the puck. Well, you still have that 1/1000 to make the hit. Make the hit. Paul Maurice, same thing. You know what I'm going to say. So, smash them till they got nothing left, right? And these guys keep bypassing them. Marner actually threw a couple hits last game. I was quite surprised.
I saw the one.
Defensively, he played actually really well. Was he he stopped a couple of 2-on-1s or 2-on-2s when he was playing on the one on the power play. He was I think it was against Barkov. Barkov was 1-on-1 with him, and he made Barkov look bad. I was really impressed. So, if he played like that the whole game, it would make a big difference. I think, again, though, you got to get the puck in deep. Toronto's faster than these guys. Force them. The only big problem you got now is that your biggest guy in the forecheck is now not there. Your biggest power forward is not there. So, one or two things to shorten up the middle. Basically, the first 2 games, they basically destroyed them up the middle, and those little those nice little passes up the middle. I don't normally say pass the puck up the middle, but Florida does play the boards quite a bit. They're not, and if you look, they're not lined up with the dots. They're actually on the other side of the dots when the puck's behind the net. So where most other teams, they play inside the dots. So you can get that pass up the middle. However, I think the one thing they need to stop doing is this float back pass thing, where they push everybody back, whatever. Use your skill, use your speed. These guys, these are Willie, Marner, and Matthews alone can dipsy doodle. Excuse me. Can dipsy doodle through these guys on their own. I'm not saying do it all the time, but every once in a while you got to take a chance. But make sure you're the first guy up there. Don't do that when you're the last. Like everybody else is up there with you. Make sure everybody's behind you when you're trying something like that. And if you know you're going to lose a puck, just dump it in. But the one thing that they need, I think Berube needs to have a talk with the officials before the game, and say, listen, you know what? There's going to be official complaints. I don't know if that means anything to them. But you guys got to be consistent, and the thing that, the reffing's been absolutely atrocious, and it's been so one-sided. I've counted 26 hits to the head in this series by these guys, by Florida, and only 4 calls. Only 4 calls. That's ridiculous.
That
So
when my wife starts going off, and she never says anything basically during a Leaf game, but when she goes off in Game 6 and says, "Jamie, this refing is absolutely atrocious," she's like, "It's not fair." She's like, like the Leafs are basically doing minor things to the Panthers, and then the Panthers, when they do a absolute terrible hit or terrible play, get away with it over and over and over again,
yeah,
Jamie. I was laughing my head off listening to her go on and on and on about how the refing's been. I'm like, Jen, I'm like, this is Bettman's way. This is Bettman's way. But no, the refing's been absolutely brutal. We're not the only two Leaf fans that have said this. Obviously, the non-Leaf fans said, "Oh no, everything's fine." But this is playoff hockey, and what I would say is let the boys play. Put the whistles away. If Florida wants to play nasty and make those hits after the whistle, get in front of our goalies, jam and smash and slash at Wall. Man, we got to do the same tonight, and I hope that it is even. I used to always say this, Jay, in playoff hockey, if the play doesn't take away a scoring chance, don't call a
yeah, let it
penalty
go.
unless it's like an
Blatant.
injury, right? Or like somebody's trying to take somebody's head off and kill them, take them out of the game. Well, then yes. But yeah, if there's no taking away of a scoring
It,
chance,
it's got to be
why call the
blatant.
penalty? Why screw the game up? Let the boys dictate who goes to the third round, the last round before the Stanley Cup Finals. Put the refs or put the whistles away, refs. What are your thoughts on that comment, Jay?
Well, yeah, unless it's blatant, you see a blatant tripping call or blatant elbow to the head, a blatant punch, you know what I mean, or a slew foot. That's the one thing that Brad Marchand seems to keep getting away with is slew foots. It's been on an average of 2 per game. That's what I've been counting, and that's a dangerous play, and he does it all the time. And I'll tell you right now, I always told a buddy of mine, Rob Carbonneau. I went to a tournament with him in Sudbury once, and this guy, Rob's 6'3", 6'4", and he was like 240. He's a big dude and could probably handle himself. And this guy kept slashing him. And he said, "Listen, guy," he says, "I'm not going to fight you." He says, "But this is back when we had aluminum sticks." He says, "I got 4 feet of aluminum here that is going to go right through your fucking face if you keep doing that, because I don't care. I'm still going to have cold beer after this game, whether I get thrown. That just means I get to it sooner. So it's up to you in the way you want to deal with this." And I started using that myself. When guys started getting at me, I just said, "Listen, I don't mind breaking this stick. I've got 12 more. I'll break it right over your face. You do that to me one more time. I'm not joking. I don't know how you feel about walking around without any chiclets in your mouth." I said, "But I will absolutely do that or crush your nose. I don't care." I said, and if I have to miss 4 or 5 games, so what? I go to work instead. I don't care. Like it costs like $300 or $400 to play hockey all year. Oh, well, you know what? I'll go play shinny instead. I don't care. You know what I mean? So stop doing that shit or you're going to get a cross check in the face. And that's exactly what I'd be telling them. And I would do it. You're going to get a suspension. Like at some point, you got to like somebody. If I was Robertson, knowing that I'm not playing that much, yeah, I get out there and I would go to Bennett and cross check him in the face and make sure
Yeah,
he's
hey,
out for like weeks. You
you
know,
know, yeah.
sorry, not Bennett, but Marchand. And that's what I would do. I would tell Marchand that nose is an awfully big target. It's going to look funny when it's split in half and looking like a Z.
You know, that is a dream. If one of the Leafs takes Marchand's nose and breaks it in half, I would be a happy man. Even if the Leafs do lose this game 7, but that happens in this game, all right, I'll be happy. So let's hope for that. Highly doubtful that would happen, but I hope so. But a big opportunity for the Leafs. I got to bring it up, and then we'll talk about the fans and how important this is to them, obviously. But Pappy finally gets one, Jay, and I hope that it continues. I thought that his gameplay was great, had a lot of looks, had a lot of great shots. But to be honest, man, still not his full self. You know,
No.
it's almost like night and day from regular season to playoffs with this guy. But on top of that, I didn't have a good regular season. Like I think he's been playing hurt or something's going on with that guy because from last year regular season to now, it's just I don't know how to explain it, but happy that he finally got one. What are your thoughts on Pappy's goal? And yeah, is he still lacking? in performance.
The goal itself was a beauty. There's no question. And they've been trying to go up high on Bobrovsky so much. I don't even know. And he is the best goalie in the league for down low. They say that his percentage is way better than everybody else's. I can't remember what it is, but it's actually like a full percentage better than the next guy. I know that as far as goals down low. So I think that they know that he knows that. So maybe start shooting a little lower. They've been going glove hand on him all the time, and it's hitting shoulder, going over the net. They've tried blocker side a few times, but they don't seem to shoot well on him blocker side. I don't know why. They keep missing the net, and especially Pappy. Pappy's been missing the net more. Like, he's got to shoot down the middle. If you're missing the net and you're trying to play angles and you can't hit the net, start shooting at the chest. If it goes left or right a little bit, well, it's going to help you. But the other thing is too, what he did there in that goal was he used the defenseman as a screen and changed the angle when he shot. So it was an all around great shot. It was a good idea. The IQ was there. He's got to do that more often, and he's got to try harder once he gets in tight. Like, he's got to be more physical in the dirty areas and make himself available. He hasn't been making himself available. There's somebody on him all the time. He doesn't skate, and that's the other. And the same thing with, it's not just him. The one that's pissing me off the most is friggin' Willie. Willie has not been skating at all, like, especially defensively. He just stands there and watches. There's been 4 goals scored in the last 2 games, or 3 games, sorry. Like, obviously not the last game, but like 4 goals that he was on the ice for, and he was standing watching. No physicality, no ownership of a position, nothing. And, like, no guy to take, nothing. It was just watching, So that's got to be better.
Put it in perspective here then. And you're right. Nylander, 6 goals, 9 assists, 15 points, leads the Leafs in scoring for the playoff race. But he's -2.
Yeah. How do you do that?
Yeah. And this is why I've been yelling and screaming at the top of my lungs all the time when we talk about Nylander. I want him off the team. He's not a true player. He doesn't care. We talked about the boys that that just don't care, right? The last show that there's no effort in Game 5. Nylander, he scores because he's talented, not because he tries. And it's very obvious in his defensive game, Jay. And you're absolutely correct. And I just definitely think we should get rid of this guy and trade him eventually to get the max value for him, because I tell you right now, Marner's walking if we lose, and he's gone. And the Leafs, for one of their best drafts in years upon years, we're going to get 0 for an amazing hockey player. So we've signed Nylander. All right, let's trade him to Buffalo and get somebody for him, or draft picks for him, or something for him, because this guy, his heart isn't in it. Let's move on to a couple of other things, and we'll wrap up here shortly. I just wanted to say, man, the fans deserve this one, Jay. I've been watching the Leafs from day one since I was born, and there's no more electric outdoor arena besides Edmonton, I would say. The outdoor courtyard outside of the Scotiabank Arena was absolutely electric for Game 6. And it's going to be absolutely bonkers. TO is going to be crazy. What are your thoughts, Jay, on how crazy will Toronto be if they win Game 7 tonight? And let's do it for the fans. What are your thoughts on those comments?
I absolutely think that this will be like a Stanley Cup win. I think that you might as well start the parade now. If they win tonight, it'll be like a Stanley Cup win. There'll be a lot of people missing work tomorrow. Or late for work. There will be a lot of drunk people. There's a lot of really dedicated fans. I've been, a fence guy for 5 years now, going, wow, I'm done. Every year, I'm done. And of course, I love the team, so I keep coming back. But if there's people like they're way more fanatic than I am. There's people, their whole yard is nothing but they've got like $20,000 to $30,000 worth of Leafs gear in their yard, flags and shirts and stuff hanging off the veranda and porch and whatever else, and they got like $200,000 worth of shirts signed and stuff like that, and sticks and whatever else in their dens downstairs. It's these are true fans. There's no question. And I was always offended by us, like by people saying, "Oh, Leaf fans are the biggest assholes," and whatever. Well, it's probably because we've lost for so long. It's like, yeah, you get angry, you start saying things that maybe you don't really mean, or you're just lashing out. And I think that people don't understand that this is like, it's a mental state that you get into when you cheer for a team that that you love so much, and you want them to do well, but it's got all the skill in the world, and yet they still don't put it out. Like, why? Like, why do you put yourself through it? So this is, I think, if this happens, I actually, like I said, I'll say it again. If they win tonight, I think they win the cup.
So do I.
I think that they're just better than everybody else skill wise. But I think if they make it past this, I think the negativity stops. And for the players, you get to a point where you're hearing the negativity all the time. It's got to weigh heavy on you, right? So I think if they make it past here, I think this is the big turning point for them. I think they could win it like multiple years. If they win, Marner's going to stay. I think if he win tonight, Marner's staying. I think Marner's staying anyway. The more I think about it, the more he is. He's happy where he is. His family's in the area. He's got a new family with kids and stuff like that. I don't think he's going to want to move anywhere. And the team's going to pay him $13 or $14 million anyway. They're going to have to pay Nyes. I think they're going to make a big trade this year, and it's going to be either Matthews or Willie. One of the two are going to go, and I think Riley's going to go. If they trade those two guys, one of those two guys, they're going to get something for them, and they can get $2, $5, or $6 million players in for these guys. And $5 and $6 million players that are up and coming that they could have for 3 to maybe an 8-year deal on $5 million or $6 million, as opposed to a 10-year deal at 13 per year, that they're going to have to give Marner, because that's exactly what he's going to ask for, So Marner's worth the money. There's no question. Like we harp on him all the time, but it's just out of anger, because that he's got more in him. Like the 6-1 loss, making those bad no-look backwards passes and shit like that, where he stopped doing that for such a long time and was playing so well. Like, if he just got to stick to the basics, man. Stop being fancy. Just work hard. Just work hard. That's it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's all on the line tonight. Game 7. Boy, man, I don't know about you, Jay, but I'm awful nervous, bro. Honor, courage, pride, all on the line tonight. And I'm just absolutely pumped for the city, for the fans, coast to coast, all over the world. We've got another Game 7, and we've got an opportunity to go to the third round for the first time in quite some time. 2 series wins in 21 years. I hope that this is number 3. I really, really, truly do, buddy. All right. Well, you've heard it here. Go Leafs, go. Keep your head up. Stick on the ice. We'll see you next time, hopefully in game 1 of the conference finals. I'm Jamie. That's J-Dog. Keep your head up. Go Leafs, go!